Boy and Mike Barra back here again with another Seahawks video update. We had a little news this week. First of all, I want to thank everybody at Spruce Pine, the Spruce Pine Alien Festival, and Pine Bush, New York, at the UFO Festival in Pine Bush. The last 2 weekends I've been traveling, haven't been around, haven't been able to make any videos because I've just been busy doing my alien stuff. And it's been loads of fun. I met so many great people, got a lot of gifts. I'm going to post some stuff on social later today on Instagram and a few other places, just saying thank you to everybody in Spruce Pine, everybody in Pine Bush for a great couple of weeks. My next appearance is in Kelso, Longview, Washington for Galactic Fest. That's the first Galactic Fest going to be held in Kelso, Longview. It's going to be a UFO Expo event. That is the company I'm partnered with Tom Reed on, and we are going to put on a show for you guys. We're going to tell you all about what's going on in the world of aliens. Well, now, what's going on in the world of Seahawks? Well, there's a lot of stuff going on actually behind the scenes, most of it very subtle, but it has a huge impact on the future of the Seattle Seahawks. It has a huge impact on what they're going to be able to do next year to get better. Because I'm going to repeat this. I've gone back and forth with Rob stating on it a little bit on his blog site. And thank you, Rob, for being kind enough to let me say my piece without blocking me or kicking me off or anything, because I have a great deal of respect for you. But I think this is an 8-9, 9-8, 10-7, 7-10 football team. I think it's right in that same range as last year. I think we will improve on defense. I think we will be just the same, if not a little worse, on offense, because I do expect our quarterback to continue his decline. He's 34 years old. He could have a bounce back year, but even if he does, I don't see us getting beyond 10-7, the seventh wild card spot, maybe the sixth wild card spot, and getting knocked out in the first round yet again. And the reason why, of course, I think that is because we didn't do anything at quarterback. But that is a different video. We've talked about that on many occasions before. This video is to talk about the restructured deal for Seahawks defensive end Dre'Mont Jones. Defensive end, edge, Leo, defensive end, whatever he's going to be in Mike McDonald's new scheme. Dre'Mont Jones got his contract restructured, and we're going to talk about the impact of it on 2024 and the impact on it on the Seahawks in 2025. And the reality is, this is a bad deal. This is a bad sign, and this basically just reinforces my position, which I'm going to continue to hold. The problem in Seahawksville, we all thought it was Pete Carroll. We were right on many points about it, but I think the real problem is the fact that John Schneider is a clown. Okay, welcome back again. This video is entitled Seahawks Restructure Dre'Mont Jones Contract. Clown John Schneider strikes again. Well, why is he a clown? We're going to talk about why he's a clown, but let's get right into the whole news, the whole bit here, and really look at what happened. Well, the news came this week. It was the Seahawks restructured the contract of defensive lineman Dre'Mont. I guess you can call him a defensive lineman because we really don't know what position he plays, but or what he plays well, because he didn't play well last year. They restructured the contract with defensive lineman Dre'Mont Jones, converting $9.875 million of Jones' 2024 salary into a signing bonus to create $7.4 million in cap room for this season, 2024, lowering the salary cap charge to $10.77 million. Jones' 2025 salary cap number increased by $2.468 million to $25.645 million, which is ludicrous for Dre'Mont Jones. And 2 void years were added to the contract. The 2 void years currently hold $4.9 million in salary cap charges. That becomes dead money when the Seahawks inevitably cut him next season. Before in the offseason, move was necessitated by the Seahawks' current salary cap position, which saw the team with a league low amount of cap room, about $1.1 million prior to the restructure. This should give Seattle the breathing room to now function the rest of the summer and into the regular season. So this is just to clear cap space for a practice squad, injured reserve. Basically, that's it. Practice squad, injured reserve, because their draft picks are all signed. So this, of course, created a little bit of consternation among the not so bright Seahawks Twitterverse that's out there. I call it Twitterverse. Seahawks Seahawks blogiverse, Seahawks Xaverse. I don't know, but let's listen to Seahawks Brandon Nelson, and I'm going to refrain from referring to him as Seahawks retard Nelson because this take, although I don't agree with it, and I'll tell you why, is a little less retarded than most of his takes. So let's just listen to him and see what he had to say about this restructuring.
So this actually gives us a pretty nice opportunity to look at what the contract was and what the contract is. So, Dre'Mont Jones on Spotrac. This is the contract as it was. 2024, the cap hit was about 18.2 million. So that was
it's ridiculously high.
Kind of a pain. That was kind of a pain to deal with, right? An $18.2 million cap hit for a player who we don't even really know what position he's going to play or what kind of impact he's going to be able to have because of what happened last year with him, where he was of limited effectiveness. That was kind of a pain. However, the upshot was that 2025, yes, his cap hit goes up to about 23.2, but his dead cap hit is 6.7 million. So that's an easy release. Not even 7 million dead with where the cap is probably going to be next year. That's pretty easy to swallow. So on the one hand, yeah, this year sucks. On the other hand, 2025 is free and easy. So now we've kind of swapped out some of the pain for pleasure and some of the pleasure for pain, I guess you could say. So you go to over the cap and you can see that things have kind of flipped. So the 2024 cap hit has been reduced all the way down to 10.8, let's call it, about 10.8 million. So very reasonable cost this season for a player that I think most of us expect to be at least a little bit better this year, a little bit more effective as a player. So that's obviously good. That accounts for the 7.4 million in savings, according to Jason OTC over here on X. You can actually see that his cap percentage has gone down from last year, where it was the cap number was slightly less, but the cap percentage was a little bit bigger. However, in 2025, the cap hit has ballooned a little bit to 25.6, let's call it, about 10% of the cap. So not only has the cap number gone up for Dre'Mont Jones in 2025, the dead money, if you release him, is now about 14.1 million. So no longer is it a painless cut. However, it is still a significant cut. We are talking 11.6 million in savings. So you could still certainly do that. Teams eat 14.1 million in cap space all the time to get rid of a player who's no longer really worth the money.
Okay, I'm gonna stop him right there. And I just got a meta comment to make here. I hear stuff from him all the time and Hawk Blogger and other people I don't agree with very often about dead cap money. Oh, the dead cap, the dead cap. Oh, it's dead cap. They act like it costs you something. Dead cap doesn't cost you anything. The only thing it actually costs you is it costs the owner a check that he has to write. Now, the main thing about it is to understand, and again, I don't know why I have to keep explaining this to you guys out there. Dead cap money doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is cap space. That's how much money you have to spend on players. You are going to have a certain amount that is already allocated for any given season. And the magicianship that comes into it, the sleight of hand, is where you figure out a way to always have enough cap space to bring in 2 or 3 or 4 starters, like the Seahawks actually did this year. They brought in 4 starters, 2 safeties, 2 linebackers. One of them's injured now. He might not make it to the start of the season, but they brought in guys that could start. So the only thing that matters is cap space. When you look at a dead cap charge, when you look at dead cap, let's just go through. Let's go to 2025 and let's cut Dre'Mont Jones. Okay, so the dead money is 14.072 and the actual cap savings is 11.572 million. So you see the Seahawks cap number here goes from 20.4 million over the cap to only 8.836 over the cap. So you save a lot less than you would have saved otherwise. But the dead cap money is irrelevant. It doesn't mean that the Seahawks have to pay him $14,072,918. They pay him whatever guaranteed salary is remaining on his contract and whatever prorated bonus charges are remaining, which is a lot less than $14.072 million. And it doesn't matter. It's all just bookkeeping. So dead cap money is fucking irrelevant. That is why the Broncos took a $59 million cap hit or whatever it was for cutting Russell Wilson, for choosing Sean Payton over Russell Wilson. So far, Seattle Seahawks have chosen Pete Carroll over Russell Wilson and then fired Pete Carroll. And the Denver Broncos have chosen Sean Payton over Russell Wilson. And I suspect they will be firing Sean Payton, if not this year, then next. Because he's a clown and doesn't know what he's doing either. And Russ, by the way, last year, 98 quarterback rating, 26 touchdowns. Should have had 32 if it weren't for drops and ridiculous penalty calls. And only, 8 or 9 interceptions. Russ played great last year, regardless of what people say. So, again, get this stupid dead cap shit out of your head. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you save on the cap in the year you cut the guy. And like Brandon said, you're cutting a guy that you don't want. Oh, but there's all this money that you're paying to guys that aren't on the team anymore. So it gives you more money to go out and buy guys who are going to be on the team this next year. So, Jesus, just please stop this. All right. So what damage did this do? It actually did, if you look at Spotrac, it did quite a bit of damage to the Seahawks 2025 cap situation. And, it moved him from a situation where, let's take a look. His old cap charge under the old contract, which Spotrac still has up, he had an $18.2 million cap hit before the restructure. And if you cut him, you would have had a fairly major dead cap hit in 2024, so they probably weren't going to cut him. But you also would have had a significant cap savings. In 2025, you would have had a cap hit of almost 23.2 million and a dead cap of 6.66, which means you would have saved $16.5 million in cap space by not restructuring Dre'Mont Jones. If you don't do this restructure and you cut Dre'Mont Jones in 2025, in the offseason in 2025, after another, let's hope. We all hope Mike Macdonald can work wonders with this guy and get him back to being a good player. But I'm not counting on that. And you would have saved $16.5 million, which would have, again, going back to the Seahawks cap situation, would have almost all by itself cleared up their cap issues for next year. So why does this make John Schneider a clown? Because you're creating cap space you have to have in 2024. And you're still going to get a little bit, an $11.5 million cap savings next year. Why does that make him a clown? Because they should never have been in this situation in the first place. Had I been the GM, we would never have picked up Geno Smith's option. Back in those days, we would have saved $27 million under the cap by cutting Geno Smith, not picking up his option in February, and saying, look, we're going to cut the cord at quarterback and go out and get another one. Now, if Geno wants to come here and play on a new deal for $5 or $10 million a year, we'd love to have you back because you're a good bridge quarterback. But I'm not going to sweat it if Geno goes somewhere else. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a trade. Maybe I still make the Sam Howell deal. Maybe I trade for Josh Wilson. I personally would have traded for Wilson over Sam Howell because there's a reason why Wilson was the number 2 overall pick and Howell was a 5th round pick because Wilson's got more upside. And hope that you're basically the same reclamation project. Can we take this guy and work with him under a better coaching system and put some good players around him? And can he become something? Can he become something that he promised? And the bottom line is that Zach Wilson has more I called him Josh. Zach Wilson has more upside than Sam Howell. Zach, Sam. So if you're going to trade for somebody, and actually Zach Wilson was traded for less than we paid for Sam Howell, which is the equivalent of a third-round pick. Hawk Blogger, you're wrong. On the system that everybody really uses, which is a Jimmy Johnson system, it was a third-round pick, which is ridiculous for a reclamation project quarterback coming into his third year. Now, again, I'm going to say this again. If Sam Howell can't beat out Geno Smith in training camp to win the Seahawks starter's job by his third year in the NFL, he's never going to be good enough to win you a Super Bowl. So the Seahawks have an ongoing quarterback problem. So what would I have done? I would have never re-signed Geno. We would never have been in this situation in the first place. I would have cut every guy that we could cut to create cap space. And I would have drafted a quarterback. I would have busted my ball after failing to go up to the number 1 pick and get CJ Stroud in 2023, which we could have done. We could have easily outbid the Carolina Panthers for CJ Stroud. But Clown John Schneider and Pete Carroll probably would have taken Anthony Richardson instead of CJ Stroud, which would be even worse. It's not a risk if you break the bank to get up and get a quarterback and you get the right one. But I think this clown organization would have gotten the wrong one. But that's just what I'm speculating on. And maybe it's not fair for me to say anything like that. But having failed to do that, we got to get a quarterback this year. Okay. And again, I'm going to say Spencer Rattler. You had 5-6 opportunities to draft him. And I understand people like Rob Staten saying, oh, well, they just didn't think he was that good. Well, they're wrong. And they're wrong because you've evaluated the guy. Maybe there was something alarming in the interviews. He's still worth with the physical talent he brings to the table. He's still worth a 4th or a 5th round pick. So then you have 2 young quarterbacks fighting it out for the starting job. And there's still veterans out there that you could have added, including Geno. Geno might have come back for a reasonable, They tried to trade Geno, nobody wanted him. So the fact that we didn't act boldly in the offseason, and when you fire your head coach of 14 years, Pete Carroll, 2023's offseason is the perfect time to act boldly. And they didn't do it. Because I think Clown John Schneider is delusional. I think he thinks this team is a contender. He's right. They're a contender for the 7th playoff spot in the NFC. They're not a contender to win the Super Bowl. I was in a casino last night, Red Rocks, up the street in Vegas here. And I was thinking, do I want to actually put my $100 on the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl? If I don't, they'll probably win it. And I'll throw away $7,500 or whatever odds I can get. Right now, up there it was plus 7,500. But I think it's pointless because they're not going to win the Super Bowl. And they're not close to contending. And what they should have done is bring in the new coach, break this thing down to the studs, and start the rebuilding process again. And you would have 2 or 3 years of the fans' goodwill to fix that. And you didn't do it. So here we are stuck again in the netherlands. We're in purgatory. We're in the middle. We're not good enough to really seriously contend, and we're not bad enough to get a high draft pick, to get a player like a quarterback who could help us seriously contend. And again, this is going to be the ongoing problem because Schneider is delusional enough. I think he really believes this team can contend, and it can't. Even if the defense is better, I don't see that translating to more than 1 or 2 wins. And I think with a little bad luck, we drop those 2 games, and we're back to 9-8, 8-9, 7-10, 10-7, right in the middle, where we're going to be in perpetuity. So let's take a look just real quick before we get out of here. Let's take a quick look at what we could have had is gone. And I've established this before. I did other videos. We could have, if we cut the right guys in 2025, had $75 million in cap space and 8 draft picks in the first 5 rounds. If you could get a 1st and a 3rd for DK, which is an A.J. Brown trade, he's definitely as good as A.J. Brown. You have 2 firsts, a 2nd, 2 3rds, 2 4ths, and a 5th. let's say you can't get that for him because the wide receiver market has gone soft and you trade DK and you only get a second and a fifth. Well, then you're going to have a first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, and a fifth, and 2 fifths. Either way, you have 8 draft picks and $75 million to go out and, I don't know, go get Dak Prescott. Dak was mentioned this week as the Seahawks being a possible destination. Now, do I think Dak Prescott is a world beater? No, but I do think he's better than Geno Smith. And I do think he's good enough that you can win a Super Bowl with him, with the players that we have. We probably have to rebuild a little bit at wide receiver after we traded DK. But even if we didn't trade DK, we could still do pretty well, cap-wise. We could still do well enough to go out and get him. And even though Dak is 32, he's a lot physically younger than Geno, and he's a better player. He always has been. Geno Smith is streaky. So let's see what we've got left. This is why John Schneider is a clown. Because when we get to 2024, now we've got cap space, but we're still 20.4 million in the red in 2025. Well, Geno Smith has a ridiculous cap number of $38.5 million for a 35-year-old quarterback who isn't that great. That's not going to work. So if we cut Geno, we save $25 million under the cap. Oh, there's that $13.5 million dead money. Again, that's not a check you actually have to write. It's way less than that. And it doesn't matter because you're talking about clearing cap space. So with this one move, boom, we're under the cap by $5 million. Now, what about DK? We can still trade DK. We can still do the smart thing, whether we get a first and a third or a second and a fifth. Let's trade him. Post 6-1, 17 million in cap savings. Suddenly in 2025, we're at 26.591 million. Now, Dre'Mont Jones, had we cut him, we'd have another 16.5 million in savings. As it stands now, we're only going to have 11.572, but I'll take it. Tyler Lockett, that cap number is 30 million. That's way too high. We got to cut Tyler. Leonard Williams, 31 years old. We're overpaying him. 12.55 million in cap savings. We're going to cut Leonard too. Trade DK in 2024. Cut Geno, Tyler, Dre'Mont Jones, and Leonard Williams. Because after all I hear about is how great Byron Murphy is. If Byron Murphy's so great, then we're not going to miss Dre'Mont Jones and Leonard Williams that much, are we? We'll have a couple of young players that we're going to bring up behind him. So we still have the potential to get to 67.7, almost 68 million in cap space, and have 8 draft picks in the first 5 rounds. So we can go get a quarterback number 1, a wide receiver number 1, because I think Jackson Smith and Nick Jigba is only ever going to be a wide receiver 2 like Tyler Lockett, but he's good. And a wide receiver 2 and a couple of defensive tackles. For that amount of money, you can get Dak and 2 or 3 starters, or you can get 5 or 6 starters at other positions. And then you can trade up to get a quarterback. Although I don't think, again, the quarterback class is nearly as good as 2023's was. 2024 class does not shape up to be that good. So we could still salvage this thing, but we would have had up over 73 million in cap space for 2025 if we had not restructured Dre'Mont Jones. So actually, the more I look at it, the more it's not that bad, although we should never have been in a position in the first place. We should have just cut the cord in 2024. And we didn't. So now we pay the price for not doing that. So that's what I have for you. There's still a potential, but this team, the Seahawks have to understand that they are not a serious contender. And for the amount of money you're going to have to pay DK, and he can say, I don't care that much about money. That's great, DK. Your agent does. You're going to have to pay DK what you're paying the top 10 players in this league. Top 10 wide receivers in this league, you're going to have to pay them top 10 money. That's ridiculous when you don't really have a super effective quarterback that can get on the ball. So this damages the Seahawks' ability to cut the cord, take it down to the studs. And really, it's only 5 guys who aren't that great. I mean, are you going to miss 35-year-old Geno Smith, 33-year-old Tyler Lockett, 29-year-old Dre'Mont Jones, 28-year-old Dre'Mont Jones, and 31-year-old Leonard Williams that much? Are you going to miss them? I don't think so. Leonard Williams and Dre'Mont Jones didn't do jack shit last year for the Seahawks. Geno Smith declined by about 15%. That's another video we talked about. Tyler Lockett, still a terrific player, but he had a few drops. DK Metcalf's probably our best player, our best star player. But he's barely considered a top 20 receiver by most people because they focus on fantasy stats. Fantasy stats like yardage. Fantasy stats are the death of football common sense. Just like dating apps are the death of romance, love, and marriage. Because they get so much attention on dating apps and can find high-value men to sleep with them, think that means that's who they can marry. And so they hold out and hold out and hold out, and that day never comes. The same delusional process is created with fantasy stats. That's the delusion that makes you think that Justin Jefferson is worth being paid as the highest non-quarterback in the NFL, highest paid position player in the NFL, non-quarterback, which is ridiculous because the only thing he really brings to you, if you look at it, is yards. Lots of other guys score more touchdowns and get more first downs than he does. So we got to get away from this fantasy stat idea. DK is a great player. I don't want to trade him, but I will if I have to. And if I'm the Seahawks, I got to face the reality that I have to. I don't think they're going to face that reality. I think we're going to have another middle-of-the-road year this year and probably next year, because as long as this organization is led by Clown John Schneider, we're not going to face the reality that we're not that good. And the only way to get better is to make some big, bold moves and take some big risks. And unfortunately, I think this is an organization that's very, very risk averse. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to me rant and vent. And I don't mean to be relentlessly negative, but I have to be grounded in reality with my favorite team. And what I see, moves like this, just don't work. They don't make this team, they don't bring this team closer to winning a Super Bowl. And that makes me sad because I want to win another Super Bowl just like you guys do. All right. See you next time when I have something more to say that you're all going to hate on me for. Be well, go Hawks. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.